Well, joining us now is Conservative MP Philip Hollowbone, who supports the ban on burqas in the UK. Morning to you.
Morning.
So, Angela Merkel being perceived to have done a massive U-turn for political expediency, but you would agree that a burqa ban, a full burqa ban, is necessary. Why?
Well, I would agree, and I think most of your viewers would agree, because you simply can't have a normal, everyday conversation, normal human interaction if somebody's got their face covered.
Well, why can't you? Because it doesn't stop someone speaking or expressing themselves or indeed communicating.
Well, how many viewers do you think you would have were you to appear on your programme wearing a burqa, or you, Piers, wearing a full-face balaclava? If we were all had our faces covered this morning...
It's not a religious requirement for us. So,
and it's not a religious...
kind of irrelevant, isn't it?
Well, no, because it's not a religious requirement for Islam. Islam says that women should dress modestly, and that's fine.
Well, the trouble, of course, with a lot of religious instruction is that it's how you interpret it. And for a number of people, they interpret their faith as covering up their faces. So is your objection to it on the basis of it's not actually religiously necessary, or is it that you can't communicate? Because I go back to the original point, which is, yes, you can. You can speak. You can easily interact with somebody who is wearing a full face veil. If it was, it is not anybody's religious compulsion to wear a complete balaclava.
Correct.
So it sounds to me like your objection to it is on the basis of religion rather than communication.
No, it's on communication. It's not a religious requirement.
Why can't you communicate with somebody in a full burqa? I mean, look, I don't agree with full burqas. I think they're demeaning to women. I think the countries that encourage it are repressive and all that argument. But I also respect a woman's right to dress how the hell she feels like she wants to. And if these women feel that their religious conviction means that they should wear it, that is a matter for them, in my opinion. But your argument is not about the religion, as Susanna has established with you. It is about the failure to communicate. Why can't they communicate?
Well, you can communicate, you can hear what somebody says if their face is covered, but you can't have the...
So blind people shouldn't be able to walk the streets. Is that your argument? Because they obviously can't see people either, and they can't be communicative.
Yeah, blind people obviously can't help being blind.
But it's the same issue, isn't it?
But all of us can help.
No, but hang on, what's the difference between somebody blind trying to communicate and somebody in a burqa?
Well, because somebody who's blind can't help being blind. Somebody who's wearing a burqa doesn't have to wear a burqa.
Your argument is that it's offensive and wrong because the ability to communicate with somebody in a burqa is removed because you can't see them, right? What's the difference between that and somebody who's blind? I don't get it.
Because the burqa has become a kind of political uniform.
I understand that, but what's the difference between a blind person's ability to communicate and someone's ability to communicate with somebody in a full burqa? Can you explain?
Because you can't have the visual interaction. So if
you can't if you're blind.
Yes, but you can see their face.
You can't if you're blind.
No, they can't see your face, but you can see their face.
If you're a blind person, you can't communicate with somebody, is what you're saying. But obviously they can. So my point to you is your argument, which is about communication and the ability to communicate, clearly doesn't work because there are many, many, many blind people in this country who communicate perfectly well with other people. So I don't get the argument that you're presenting. If it was about their religion or whatever else, I'd understand the argument. I don't get the communication point.
But we're never going to have a fully functional, integrated society if a growing number of people go round with their face covered.
OK, so your point isn't about communication. I mean, that's what we've come down to, isn't it? We all know that people in burqas and full-face veils obviously can communicate. Your point is you are worried about more people wearing the veil, and therefore you have an issue with that interpretation of Islam.
Well, it's all these things, Susanna. So if you go around with your face covered, you're going to have fewer conversations with people than if you don't have your face covered.
Because I don't get the... So we've given you a chance to come up with a more, in my view, a more coherent argument. The Netherlands has banned them on security grounds in public places, right? You don't know what may be hidden under the burqa. I can understand that kind of argument, right? And I don't personally like the full burqas because I think they're demeaning to women, but I respect their religious beliefs make them do this. But you keep taking the debate back to the ability to communicate. And I keep saying to you, and you don't seem to be able to answer this question, what is the difference between the ability of someone to communicate with someone in a burqa and a blind person's ability to communicate? I don't understand the difference, because if there's no difference, then you should not want blind people to walk the streets because they can't communicate.
Well, with respect, Piers, it's you that keeps taking the debate back to
you
communication.
You do. We've opened the door to other arguments, and you keep saying, but it's the ability to communicate, which is your argument, isn't it?
It's all these arguments.
Well, which is your main argument?
It's all these arguments.
Which is your main argument?
It's security, it's communication.
It's now security, the one I gave you.
Political uniform. It's not the British way of doing things to go around with your face
When you say the
covered.
British way of doing things, I see people walking around with massive scraggly beards, with their heads covered in tattoos. I don't like those either, but I respect their right to have whatever they want. I respect a woman's right to wear any clothes she wants to wear. I respect a guy. If a guy wants to wear a balaclava in the street, let him. I don't care. It's their right, isn't it?
Well,
what right have you got to actually tell women how to dress? So that's really what this boils down to.
Would you be happy with your children being educated at school by a teacher wearing a full-face balaclava? Would you be happy speaking to a police officer who had their face covered? Would you be happy being in a court where you couldn't see the face of the judge?
See, you're now putting forward arguments that I think at least have a coherence to them. But the argument you presented when we started this debate, and which you kept coming back to, was the ability to communicate. So I would suggest to you that it's probably a very sound argument here to have this debate, but it's not about communication, is it?
It's in part about communication, because if you have your face covered, you don't have as much human interaction with your fellow human beings.